I was in my lab, sitting in front of a microscope, trying not to cry. It was during my PhD, and I was starting a new experiment. Now, most of my experiments used mice, but for this experiment, I was using human cells from a cell line that our lab had ordered on an online catalog. Now, cell lines are an amazing tool we can use in research, but they're not from normal cells, because normally cells have an expiration date. However, if the right mutation exists, it can override this expiration date, and these cells won't die. And then, given the right conditions, these cells can madly proliferate, producing identical copies of themselves, and they can live forever. And then you can freeze them in liquid nitrogen and sell them to labs online. And for research, these are a remarkable tool we can use for drug development to discover the functions of genes and proteins. But in the body, these cells are cancer. Perhaps some of you have read of or heard the book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks by Rebecca Skloot. It's brilliant. And in it, she takes us behind the scenes of a very famous cell line used in science. And it's a very personal, human, and emotional story. And I was so profoundly impacted by this book, it primed me to ask the question for this experiment, who did these cells come from? So I did a bit of research. They are derived from the blood of a 1-year-old human male with acute monocytic leukemia. A 1-year-old boy. My son just had his first birthday 2 weeks before. I'm staring at this clump of cells from this little boy whose first birthday could have been his last. And these are genetically identical, these cells. They used to course through this little boy's body, through the hands he used to play with his favorite toy, the arms he used to hug his mom. So I'm sitting in front of this microscope, trying not to cry, but failing. As I'm wiping away tears on my lab coat sleeve, I think to myself, this is wrong. This isn't science. Science is stoic and objective. As Tom Hanks' character said in A League of Their Own, there's no crying in science. But motherhood is just one of those hats I can't take off, even in the lab. You know, ever since I'd returned to work from my maternity leave, I noticed that things were just a little bit different. Like, it was harder for me to euthanize my mice. Or during some of the departmental seminars I would attend, if it involved a disease of children, oh, my heart broke in a way it just never did before. And I started to really ask myself, does my research matter? Is it ever going to help anybody? It was like my science, it just got humanized. But scientist is another hat I can't take off. So I took my first maternity leave during my PhD, and it was hard for a lot of reasons. It was hard to let go of all this science that used to surround my days in exchange for sippy cups and pablum. But as my son grew older, I began to realize what many parents do, that babies, toddlers, children, they're just little scientists themselves, trying to figure out how the world works. So when my son would throw his sippy cup on the floor for the 10th time in a row and get frustrated if I wouldn't retrieve it quickly enough, in an effort to not get frustrated and remain calm, I started giving the title of the manuscript that he was collecting data for. Sippy Cup Retrieval Time. An exploration of mommy-son power dynamics. Or when my son was playing in the bathtub along the rim of the bathtub, and my knees would be soaked with water. How many cups of water can a cup of water hold? Or in Home Depot with my husband in the plumbing aisle for what seemed like the 10th time